Welcome on in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 16 of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us today. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be joined by NASCAR team owner and driver BJ McLeod, as we'll talk about his career, all that he's done in the sport, and also we'll get to know him a bit and have a great conversation with BJ when he joins us coming up in just a little while from right now. And as always, David Starr is here with us. David, appreciate the time. Tell us about this past weekend at Phoenix as you finished up the West Coast swing.
Man, Phoenix was awesome. You know, we had a great race. We had our number 61 Whataburger Toyota Supra. Man, Phoenix has always been a great track for us, and it was a great race. I think we started 30th. I don't remember where it was, but it was pretty back in the field. And, man, you know, they put the traction down. I forget what they PJ1 or whatever that black stuff is that gives the race cars grip. And man, last time we ran there back in November, man, it was unbelievable. It was awesome. And this time it was just as awesome, but it almost made the Phoenix Raceway a one-lane racetrack. And it was, you know, I had a good car and was making some ground, and we picked off probably 11, 12 cars, but it was hard to pass. And my race car could get in the corner good, and it would rotate in the center good, but, you know, and you could turn underneath somebody. But, man, if you didn't complete the pass, you could get freight trained. What I meant by if you could turn underneath somebody, they were on the high side, and you could turn underneath them. If you didn't get back up into the high lane, I mean, man, you would get freight trained. It was very challenging, and you really had to have a lot of patience for the Xfinity race. But, man, what a great race. There was a lot of beating and banging, but it was almost like it was a one-lane racetrack. And the only time I thought I could pass in the middle or down low was on the restarts. But, man, as soon as I could get up to the high side, that's what you needed to do. And I think we made it all the way up to 19th or 20th, and we pitted on a strategy towards the end, put on some new tires. Unfortunately, we lost a valve spring, lost a cylinder, and kind of ended our day. I was really surprised when they said, hey, you finished 28th. I said, how's that possible? 28th? I ran 30 laps on 7 cylinders just trying to stay out everybody's way. But man, that's just racing. Sometimes that happens. It was a great race. You know, I could see what was going on with the leaders and as they came by me because I was on 7 cylinders. But it was a great race up until the point we lost a cylinder. But the fortunate thing was able to finish, and it was a great race. And same thing as the Cup race. I thought Sunday's Cup race was good as well.
And we'll talk about the Cup race later on. Dominic Oregon from the RacingExperts.com is here. Dominic, you made the trip out to Phoenix. You shared some Waffle House with David. Tell us about your experience there at the Phoenix International Raceway.
Well, as we all know, any day at the racetrack's a great day. So great to see a lot of people you hadn't seen since last year, get to catch up with David and a lot of the guys that you've worked with over the years. So great weekend covering it for the Racing Experts and for ESPN Radio Albuquerque, as always. So had a lot of fun out there, and, man, looking forward to going to the next one. Not quite sure when that next one is, but hopefully it's just down the road, not too far away.
Yeah, that's great. And, David, one more thing, just looking back on that race, it was Austin Cindric who pulled into victory lane. That guy, he's something special, isn't he? I mean, the run that he's been on the last couple of years now, I mean, he's certainly the guy to beat this season in the Xfinity Series.
Well, no doubt about it. I mean, just, you know, he just has so much talent. You know, we've been watching him race ever since he made it to NASCAR, and it's just, you know, every week you're impressed by him. And be able to drive for Roger Penske and drive that Ford he's driving, I mean, that's just a great combination. I don't know exactly who his crew chief is, but, you know, having that much talent, he gets better every week, and driving for Roger Penske, I mean, you know, in his, you know, I look for him to be a future star at the Cup level. You know, obviously he's a star in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, winning all these races, and you know, he'll be a championship contender this year in the Xfinity Series, and you'll see him racing in the Cup Series, I'm sure, soon. Just a lot of talent, and we see that week in and week out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's something special. All right, David, introduce us to our next guest, BJ McLeod, as he makes his debut on the show.
Man, BJ, man, what an honor it is to have you on our podcast, buddy. I know it's kind of a last minute, but man, fans BJ McLeod, just man, just one hell of a race car driver. Just I'm can't wait to ask him questions to see how he made it to NASCAR. I mean, just to make it to that level, and BJ racing on the Cup side. But man, I've been racing with this guy for years, and he's so good. And man, I don't care what kind of car you put him. You can put him in an underfunded car, and he gets everything out of the race car. So it's pretty cool to have you on our podcast, BJ, and welcome, man. You doing okay?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I don't know about all that, man. You guys, he definitely built me up there, David. But I appreciate all the kind words and respect the opinion, and just always trying to work and get better, man. I've watched you for a long time, and I mean, I've been here 10 years. You've been here 20, 22. So it's we've been doing this a long time. So it's we definitely have a lot in common. We were talking about truck race at Martinsville the other day. David and I were at the track. We were talking about my first race was actually at Martinsville in October of 10, and David was in that race. And I mean, we've raced pretty hard at times. I mean, we've had some battles in Xfinity for that mid-pack area, and David's he'll drive you clean. He's just hard to race. I mean, he's definitely one of those that isn't playing around. Like he definitely tries hard, and we try to win our race. There's lots of races going on out there that most people focus on the first one, but it's I can tell you through that field, there's some hard racing for 20th, 15th, 10th, 25th. It doesn't matter. There's a lot going on, and I've been in all those areas, and hopefully one day working to get to that top 10, but it just is what it is. We'll keep digging and do the best we can.
BJ brings up a good point there. We were talking about it not that long ago. BJ McLeod, you look at all the people we race with in the Xfinity series to make it to the NASCAR Truck Series, Xfinity Cup level, like BJ's competing in week in and week out now. I mean, everybody's a champion. Everybody's good, and, I look at Jeff Gordon, you look at, Clint Boyer, and, just all the guys that are running and winning races today. You could put BJ McLeod in the 24 Cup car, the 88 Cup car, or Brad Keselowski's car, and BJ would get the job done just like those guys are. I mean, he didn't make it to NASCAR just because, he's not good. He's very good. He's very talented, but, it all comes down to having the funding behind you. If BJ had on the Cup side, if he had $30 million, on the Xfinity side, if BJ had $10 million, he'd be doing, what we see Austin Cindric doing. You know what I mean? So BJ's that good. It just comes down to money. And I love hearing what BJ's telling you guys. And we talk about this a lot. There's so many races going on within a race. I was saying, man, when we're racing for 15th or 20th or 21st or 18th, I mean, that kind of racing, it's unbelievable how good it is. It's really good.
Yeah, so, it is. It's extremely hard.
So BJ, how did BJ McLeod come NASCAR driver BJ McLeod? I mean, when you were a kid growing up in Florida, I mean, was your dad a race car driver? Was your grandfather? I mean, how did all that happen, man? Can you share that with us?
I absolutely can. I'm glad to. We actually had this conversation, my dad and I, the last time I was in Florida, ironically, right there around the Daytona races. We were just talking, thinking about things we've done and all the stuff that my parents did to get me the experience and the seat time to be able to do what I do now. And we were talking about the fact that, he was a drag racer. Actually, he was a street racer. He was born in 45. And he actually raced on the streets, when he was 16, 17, 20, 25. And I mean, he had some awesome drag cars and done some crazy stuff. Surprised he's still alive. But the biggest part was the drag racing side. When I was born in 83, was switching to more of a bracket style, competition. Like there was not like the lower levels were switching a lot to brackets. And my dad simply liked first one to the line wins. So when I was born and he wanted to put his focus into me, he didn't want to put me in drag racing and try to figure out how to have breakout. And, if I was 2 tenths behind at the start and the finish line, I could win. He didn't want to figure all that out. So he actually started me on ovals because of that. Actually, he started me on dirt ovals. And that's the whole reason I'm not a drag racer, because I'm sure he would have taught me and sent me that direction, and I would have known no difference. So I'd have been excited to do that. So it's pretty ironic that it all went down the way it did, because, you know, when I was born, he put his focus into me, and my mom supported him 100%. Always a family effort, family affair. Like we were always at the weekend, you know, the races together, and he just, they together, you know, they had me on a gas powered four wheeler at 2.5 years old, David. That's my first green flag.
Wow.
I've got a picture of it. My wife
Wow.
actually framed the suit and put it in the shop. They're going to put it on social media here before too long, but it, you know, it's crazy for me to look at that. And I actually remember holding that trophy for my first win before I was 3 years old. So it started on, you know, dirt, flat track with ATV. Then at age 5, I switched over to go-karts and ran asphalt ovals the whole time, all the way to age 12. Then I was, you know, Jeff Gordon had come along out of sprint cars at around age 13 is when he started, you know, really, really getting known and everything. And my dad, when I turned 13, he wanted to switch me over to super late models, and nobody was having that. Like they just couldn't fathom a 13-year-old racing a super late model. So I had to go through a bunch of practice sessions and things, you know, somewhat similar to the approval process now for NASCAR. I had to do that for super lates because I was so young, and him and my mom went through it. You know, we went and did tests and different things and practiced in front of track owners and stuff like that. And he actually got me approved to run super lates at 13. And I actually won. It was ironic enough. It was Friday the 13th, and it was my 13th race that I won my first race, and I was 13 years old. So I always thought 13 was lucky after that. So.
Hey, man, BJ, you wasn't in car 13, were you?
No, I wasn't. No, I always ran 78. So that
Yeah.
it was kind of cool that, you know, I got my first win at 13 years old. And then, you know, to back up what you were saying earlier, how you feel like, you know, if we were given equal opportunity with money and stuff and rides and things that we could perform somewhat similar to the guys that are there. And I believe I can, right? But I don't want to say that publicly, because you need proof, you know, like we need to do it, right? Like that's just the way I look at it. So if you go back to why would I think that for myself, that I may be capable of that. And it's the fact that I won a super late model race at 13. Then I won 22 of them the year I was 14. I finished top 3 52 times in 2 years. I won over 100 super late model races over a 13-year period with 22 championships, including the World Series, which is one of the hardest things you can win in a super late model. So, you know, and it's the people you race against too. You know, they're all hardcore racers. They're all just, I mean, it's hard to make a living at that level. And these guys are doing this, and every spare minute of their life, they're spending it getting these cars ready. And there's nothing easy about winning a super late model race. Like I actually just started a super late model team back, and I'm going to go race, you know, a couple times this year and probably more next year. And, you know, we're going down there and we might get lapped in a super late race. Like, I mean, that's how hard this stuff is now. So, you know, you never know. We might go win. We might run 10th, but the biggest thing is, you know, my parents got me the backing and the experience at the local levels, which I was very fortunate at. I wish I had got to NASCAR at a younger age, but I also like the fact that I have as much experience with business and with life and just honestly driving that I did when I made it in NASCAR. Because, yeah, you know, my age and getting here at the level at the time I did has, you know, stopped me from being a superstar, and it'll be, you know, almost impossible to ever be, you know, a multi-race winner. But I'm still dreaming of winning one Xfinity race, you know, and I'm still dreaming of a Michael McDowell situation at Daytona 500. Like, you know, I actually drafted with Michael for 12 or 14, 15 laps that race. So, I mean, it's possible to be in that spot. And I'm not saying that we could ever win one, but I'm not saying we can't. I'm damn sure going to dream for it.
So let me ask you, BJ, you mentioned Jeff Gordon as you were growing up. Was he your hero, your favorite driver? I know David's was A.J. Foyt, and talks about A.J. Foyt. Was Jeff Gordon that for you?
So NASCAR was Richard Petty first. I was a Richard Petty fan, like before I knew that I would ever even have a chance to drive a stock car. And then for some reason, if you got to pick that in that era, you got to pick between Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt Sr. And it's weird that I went with Gordon, honestly, because I like the black cars. I love, like Earnhardt's attitude and the way he approached the racetrack. But it also was I just felt more in line with what Gordon was doing. And I seen his success and the way he was living his life and making something. And he was doing stuff that he shouldn't be doing, just like I was at a lower level. So, to me, I felt like I had more in common with him at that time. And I definitely was a 100% Jeff Gordon fan all the way, till the early 2000s.
Amazing, VJ. What's cool, man? What I love is just, man, I had no idea that you're freaking racing go-karts. I mean, you started at 3 years old. You're racing go-karts at 5, winning go-kart races. And, man, that's amazing how young you were when you started. You know what I mean? And
well, I owe that to my parents. They so I always appreciated my parents, love them to death, always will. Always knew they did a lot for me. But the older I get, the more I realize what kind of effort they did put in. I mean, you're talking about my mom and dad would have me in a race on a Friday night, then take me across the state and race me on Saturday, take me another place in the state and run Sunday, or to another state and race on Sunday, and then have me back at school. It was just the effort they put in was unparalleled in my opinion, and just very fortunate to have been in that situation. And even though they couldn't help me a lot, like after age 16, 17, it's still what they instilled in me at a young age, and the seat time they got me made it to where, yes, maybe I need seat time on a 1.5 miles. Maybe I need seat time on a super speedway. You know how this goes. But no matter what, if it had 4 wheels, I could get in it and go at least almost as fast as the next guy. Like maybe not perfect, but I was close enough to it to make something happen. So, man, that's the part we appreciate.
Just hearing you talk, man, I know your mom and dad are just super proud. I mean, what an honor that is to be able to have your parents. I mean, how committed they were, and just to be able to run on Friday night, Saturday night, and then race again Sunday, and then have them drive probably 6, 7, 8, 10 hours to get you back home to make sure you were in school on Monday morning is just unbelievable. And man, that's incredible, man. What a blessing that is, and to have that relationship. But a lot of people don't realize that what racing does for people. A lot of times I talk to some of these kids that are racing, and one of the biggest things the mom or the dad would tell me, it's like, man, we work in the shop together on the race car or the go-karts, and we're traveling together, racing together, and that nucleus of a family, there's a lot of love there. And then the kid is getting a lot of experience. And, man, you have obviously lived that and enjoyed that. And look what you became, man. I mean, without your parents doing that for you and the experience that you had that they gave you, I mean, hell, you're winning freaking super late model races at 13 years old. I mean, that's unheard of, even today. Yeah. Even today, you hear about it a little bit here and there, but that's unheard of, man. I mean, and like you were saying, BJ, to win a super late model anywhere in the country, especially Florida, I mean, all the hot shoes and all the talent that race for a living. And when you're talking about racing super late models, these guys do this 2, 3, maybe sometimes 4 nights a week, and they're professionals. Even though it might be a super late model, a local thing, these guys are good. And like you were saying, BJ, it's like, man, you're going to be running a late model, super late model race. And hell, I mean, you're talking about BJ McLeod, NASCAR Cup Series driver. And you're going to step into a super late model, like you said, you might get lapped. That just shows how good those guys are. But, man, hats off to you. And, man, thank God for your parents. Look where you are today, man. Obviously, you got to be proud of yourself. And I know your parents are super, super proud because their commitment and what they did for you paid off. That's for sure.
Well, that's what I never think about it for myself, but I definitely, told my parents, I told my dad Sunday night, thank you for everything you guys did for me earlier in my life. And just, I tell them that probably once every 5 or 6 races. I just remind them that I wouldn't be there without what they had put into me at a younger age, and let them, because unfortunately right now they can't come to the track. So they're sitting in Wauchula, and I just want them to know that they're there with me. Like I no way, shape, or form would have been anything without the effort they put in. And my wife, it's the same thing with her. She's been with me. Monday, I'll be 18 years with her. Like wow. I'm just turned 37. So half my life. And And I can tell you right now, I wouldn't be here without her either. Like I was fortunate enough to be surrounded by family that pushed me. And when I I thought I could do something, she didn't say maybe. She said, no, you can do it. She was always pushing me and always trying to help us jump out and do stuff that was crazy and that we probably shouldn't have done. But it definitely paid off. And very thankful for all the great people I've been surrounded by to help make this happen.
So BJ, for you, at what point did you realize or know that, you know what, I'm going to be making it to NASCAR? That's the next step that I need to take. And what did that journey look like?
To be honest with you, I still don't feel like I've made it to NASCAR. So I'm 10 years in. I'm 260 some starts in. I own 3 Xfinity teams, part of a Cup team, part of a Cup charter. I run Cup almost full time, and I still don't feel like I'm in NASCAR. So I think it's just a part.
Let us inform you, dude. You have made it. You have made it, and I've raced with you. And dude, you're damn good. I mean, again, you don't get to the level you're racing at. I mean, you don't make it to NASCAR, and you definitely don't make it to the level Sunday afternoon racing in the Cup side if you're not any good, dude. Your ability, your talent, and the race car driver you have became, dude. You're awesome, and it's pretty cool to see. I'm proud of you.
Well, I greatly appreciate that, David. And I just want to work hard to prove that I belong there. And I've got a lot of years left to get better and make things happen. And I'm just looking forward to trying to do that. But, to answer your question best I could, I never looked at it as, making it. I just always looked at it like, how do I get there and how do I stay there? And, that was, basically at 26 years old, I'd won the World Series and I was taking pictures on the front stretch. And it was something I tried to win my whole life, at least, since I was 13. Mm-hmm. And that I'd finished second 3 or 4 times in the points, just a really hard deal to win. And I won it, and I was on the front stretch, and I was like, I can't feed my family. I can't do this forever unless I find money to do it. And I was like, at that point is when I decided that I was going to make it in NASCAR, or I was going to, be doing something else. So, that's when we took off. My wife supported me, and we, went to North Carolina and worked for free for 10 months in Germain Racing, and just did a bunch of cool, crazy stuff that got me a lot of good relationships to the Hillman family, and the Germain family was good to me, and just got me going. Chris Long, he was the one that owned my Super Late model at that time. He told me, he's like, man, if you don't dream, you're never going to get there. He's like, you can't have the attitude a lot of people have and think it's not possible or it's not going to happen. He's like, what's the worst that happens? You don't make it. He's like, if you have it in you to try, just try. And he was the one that told me that. And like I said, luckily enough, I got, just put in the right spot with the Germain family and then the Hillman family. And they really, tutored me correctly and helped me and did stuff for me and got me pointed in the right direction. And I had a business sense already. And it was honestly, that part was pretty simple for me to put together with my wife to figure out a plan to be able to sustain a business and stay here. And then at the same time, work parallel on a driving career, through the years. So that's, I'd say 2010 was the point where it switched, and I was going to go to NASCAR. Whether I made it or not was the question, but we were going to at least try once. And I guess 3 Daytona 500s later, we're still going. So I'm thankful.
Well, dude, that's so awesome. But man, you really, when somebody says BJ McLeod, I think of BJ McLeod. I think the business side of it, what you and your wife have built together. The race car driver is there, talented, can get the job done. I mean, you're a hell of a race car driver. The business side of BJ McLeod, I mean, it's amazing, dude. What you have done in our sport as a team owner and a driver, I mean, that's so unique. You know what I mean? There's not a lot. What you do, BJ, and what you and your wife have built, you don't see that a lot, man. You know what I'm saying? That's a very special thing. And man, and you're sharing some stories with us. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. I mean, y'all moved to North Carolina or visit North Carolina. You were there for 10 months, and man, you were sweeping floors and wiping cars down and doing whatever you needed to do to, and I don't think it's luck. I think with talent, perseverance, the passion and desire and the dream, and then your ability as a race car driver, you created opportunities on what you're just telling us, and look where it got you. We got to dream big, but man, you got to have passion, you got to have desire, you got to have heart, and you had it all, man, and you have made it. So it's pretty cool to hear you share those stories. And going back to, so you actually worked for Germain's in the Hillman family for 8, 9, 10 months for free, just learning the business, learning the racing at that level.
We had been, my wife and I, we started venturing out and doing business when I was 19, she was 22. And obviously this is, 2010. So 7 or 8 years later, roughly. And, I knew I wanted to make it in the NASCAR world. And I knew every part of racing. My parents, they had me build my own race cars. The only thing I was never any good at was fabricating. I really, that is an art I never could figure out. But, short of making a fender brace or something, I was in bad shape when it come to fabricating. But, as far as I built my first motor with my dad before I was 10 years old, I'd built a full Super Late on my own, minus getting the body hung, by 14 years old. So I knew how to work on stuff. I knew all of that, and not all of that. I knew enough to be good at it. But, it was the way I've always done everything is, if I'm going to go do something that I'm not 100% about and I don't know every aspect of it, I try to go work with people that are successful and are champions. And that was Germain Racing and the Hillman family. They were dominating trucks at that point. And, fortunately enough, I was a driver coach for 10 or 12 years, and they invited me to driver coach Zach Germain in the K&N series. And at the same time, we thought, what if we're going to run a truck race, we're going to support these guys. So, that's when I went and seen Mike Hillman Sr. We made a deal on the truck. The Germains approved it. And I went and built my own truck and worked in their shop for free. So it was, it was a deal where I worked on the 30 truck that year that ended up winning the championship. And well, I actually got the spot for him at Nashville when we won there in 2010.
Wow. So that's amazing,
pretty
man.
cool. But, it was, I got to put the rear ends in, put the motors in, did everything. I stripped the trucks, put them back together. I did whatever they'd let me do. And it was a very eye-opening 10 months. And most importantly, I knew I needed to make relationships. And I was able to make relationships with, Mike Hillman Jr., Mark Hillman, Mike Hillman Sr., Rudy Fugle, Tom Ackerman. There was just a lot of people there at that point. Mike Abner, and there's more than this. There's more.
Right.
Booty Barker was really cool to hang out with. They all seen me there and seen me working, and they seen how bad I wanted it. And it was, by halfway through that deal, I didn't have to try too hard to get help. They all wanted to help me and wanted to see me try to succeed. And I'm still, I went and I still talk to Senior every weekend. I talk to Junior when I see him, Rudy when I see him. It's still, these relationships are over a decade old now, and I have friends in very good places, and it definitely helps out. So it was really those 10 months that gave me the boost I needed to be able to get to the point to work to where I'm at now. And I'm just really, really thankful that things worked out the way it did in that situation, and got me headed the right direction.
Absolutely.
So what did you do to make ends meet at that time while you were working for free?
Well, fortunately enough, like I said, my wife and I started doing business when I was 19. She was 22. And then, like I said, I guess that'd be 03, 04. So roughly 6-7 years into kind of doing our own thing. And we had made enough money that we had assets, and we had cash to live off at that point. And, it was, we couldn't have lasted a long time, but we had that business, that goal in mind of owning a team and me trying to drive and make it driving. And we knew we had a certain amount of time that we could focus on that and not, work on other businesses and stuff. And it was just a good time to make the jump and take a chance. And if not, her and I, we're definitely entrepreneurs. We have some kind of living. We may not be rich, but we definitely have some kind of living. We just decide to do stuff together, and we always figure it out. So it, definitely was a point there where we said, we're going to go after this, and she supported me, and we went for it. And fortunately enough, it worked out. We, to finish answering your question, we started driver development with the Super Late Model program because I just won the World Series, right? And we, I'd been instructor for over 12 years at Finish Line Racing School. And, we had Matt Tifft and Scott Heckert right off the bat. And I was training them and teaching them through 2011. And it allowed me to keep focusing on getting smarter with the NASCAR stuff and, keep making my relationships and build my networks there. And that whole deal just started working hand in hand. And then the driver development business took off, and we just had a blast helping Matt, Scott, some other kids, and it just worked out really well.
Well, you mentioned your wife and just how much she supported you. What did that mean for you to have somebody that stood by your side like that, that believed in what you were doing in the process and such, to have your wife alongside for that journey?
Well, it's invaluable, really. I mean, you can't realize how important it was until you get a little bit further along. And during the time I was wondering, she never hesitated. I'm telling you, every time, because we borrowed money to do stuff we did. Like, it wasn't like we had everything covered. I mean, we took chances that we might work a lifetime to pay back if things didn't work out. And, it was the whole time she was confident and said, yes, you got it. Just do it. And I'm like, okay. And then I'd get by myself and I'd be like, is she right? Is she just being nice? Like I didn't know. I know she's very intelligent, right? And she's calculated risk taker. So I knew that she had to think the chances were good, but I'm the one over here like, yeah, I told her it'll work. Now I'm wondering if it will. So anyway, she, to answer the question exactly, unvaluable. Like you just can't put a value on how important that was, because this is our lives. It's not a joke. Like, I mean, this is something that we took a leap, and if it didn't work out right, we were going to have a different life, and it was going to be extremely hard for a while. And, to have her in my corner, that's why I say I couldn't have done it without her, because if I'd had the wrong person in my corner questioning me or pulling back on me or saying, well, we don't need to take this chance, I don't know if I could have still done it on my own. And I know I wouldn't have done it as well if I was on my own. There's no doubt. So having her to do that was really big. And the further we get, when we signed the charter deal for the Cup Series, and David knows we're in Xfinity, and it's like, every year you go to Daytona and you hope you make it. You hope that the first 3 or 4 races go right. We've lived this. I've lived it 5 years. He's lived it 15. It's like you're always wondering. And when we signed the charter deal, it gave us a little bit, even though I still don't ever let myself get complacent. I never will. It still gave us that 1 ounce of, well, at least we know we're making the Daytona 500. Like that's not a question. 2021 Daytona 500, we're in it. And that was the point where I looked back for 15 minutes and said, you know what? She told me this. She's like, you need to enjoy at least for an hour what we've done, because she knows I don't. I'm always going forward. I'm always prepping, and I'm always, looking at what I need to do to be better. And she told me, she said, you need to stop for an hour and say, this is what we've done, and it like, that was the point when I realized how important she had been the whole time on giving me support. She's incredibly intelligent with all the business side of this business, the office side and paperwork and, everything we have to take care of. She's got that covered, but it was the most important part to me was her having my back. And the nights you're at home and you're empty in your stomach, or, got butterflies in your stomach because you don't know if you're going to be able to make something work. She was the one that calmed me down and made me feel good. So it was, she always told me, we're going to make this happen. You've got this. Let's just watch TV. And I'm like, all right, so here we go.
Man, it's so real, man. It's amazing to hear you speak about all that, BJ. It's, I love it. Just the confidence that your wife, your life partner has in you, and just, that love and that nucleus, she knows who you are and what you're made of and your ability. And man, it's cool to hear that she knew right away, let's do it. It was all going to work out. She had the confidence in you and knew the faith that was all going to work out. So, but it's kind of cool to hear the stories behind the scene, what you're really thinking, even though, I understand what you're saying. When you're borrowing money and doing all this other stuff, you're like, man, am I doing the right thing? But man, it's, it's just cool. You're just a super awesome race car driver, but it's really cool to own 3 Xfinity cars. You know what I mean? And you know, you raced trucks for a long time, then you transitioned over to the Xfinity Series and did a great job. And the next thing you know, I mean, the B.J. McLeod Enterprises, your motorsports, your racing team just kind of grew quickly, you know. And it's amazing that these race car drivers from around the country, I mean, I'm always interested every off season to think, man, who's going to be driving for B.J. McLeod? You know, your team is a wanted commodity. When I say a wanted commodity, people want to come drive for B.J. McLeod on the Xfinity side. I mean, you got fast race cars. Listen to you talk earlier about, you know, how you learn the business and making relationships and, you know, how you understand every aspect of the race cars. But, I mean, you put some really great people around you, too, to build you and your wife have built a great organization, you know. And not only do y'all own 3 NASCAR Xfinity teams, hell, you own a NASCAR Cup Series team. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, that's what's so.
Don't worry, David. I don't believe it either.
I mean, that's amazing. I mean, hell, I just think owning an Xfinity team is something. I mean, people don't realize how hard that is and what's entailed, and you know, all the employees and just the logistics and all the race cars y'all have, and I mean. And to have a cup team as well and a charter, dude, that's, man, amazing, man. Amazing.
Yeah, well, and to add to that, too, what David's saying, I mean, you guys have this technical alliance going with Stewart Haas, Matt Tiff's involved here. Tell us about what's going on with Live Fast Motorsports in year 1 and what you guys are building over there.
Well, we're actually coming off our best race so far, in my opinion. We had a 23rd place finish at Daytona, but you know, we actually had a fuel pressure issue that was causing us to pit 8 gallons early. So I pitted that last I don't know, 80 or 90 laps probably 10 times, and it just killed our finish. But you know, we had the 23rd there, should have been easy, a top 15. We had a really fast car. Moving to Phoenix, you know, we had some good speed, and we're still trying to figure out, because you know, we have our budget set. We know what we think we need to spend. We know what we can afford to spend, and that's all we have. So if we roll out and we're in trouble, you know, we're going to have to work on stuff other than finding more money right now, because it's just our budget set for this part of the year. And you know, it was nice to go to Phoenix and fire off and have some good cars around us, and you know, have we were 2.5 tenths or less off the leader, you know, for a good amount of the race. And you know, it's a mile, so the gap's a little bit closer, but you know, we were in the 30th position, but if you look at some of the lap times, you have less than 4 tenths all the way to 35th. You know, like it's crazy how tight that field is. And you know, we just had good long run speed. We had good fire off speed. I had a gap from like lap 3 to like lap 7 that I was struggling a little bit as a driver. Car was just traveling a touch too much and rubbing a little bit on the splitter, so I'd lose a little bit of track position and time on the track to that. It was hard to overcome, but you know, just we have the budget now, I know, to run around that 28th spot when things are perfect. We have an awesome pit crew, a Stewart Haas pit crew, and they were getting us 3-4 spots every time we come down pit road. I mean, it was just phenomenal. And you know, the whole program over there, you know, it's just been awesome to see it start out this fast, in my opinion, this well. I know 30th isn't what, you know, the regular person that watches NASCAR gets excited about, but I know this is race 5 for us in history. Okay, like it's not our 5th year, our 10th year, our 20th year, our 30th, 40th, or 50th. This is literally race 5, and we are a 30th place car. You know, like there's no question now. And we're going to work each week to try to be better, and we're going to get some better finishes than that before the year's over for sure. And it's just nice to see that we have I know now, because I know the business, that we have the budget to hopefully race around that 28th mark without any attrition, and for hopefully get some breaks go our way and get some top 20s before the year's over. That's the goal right now.
And real quick, PJ, too, you run the 78 car in the Cup Series. You guys have the charter. You have your team. Do you ever pinch yourself because you are racing the number that you grew up racing, and you're at NASCAR's Elite Series doing it?
Yeah, So sometimes I see comments, somebody will tell me, well, why did you pick the 78? It was furniture rows, this, that, or whatever. And actually, Joe Garone and I become friends in 2010, actually, that same year. Yeah. We hung out quite a bit at the end of that year, and I actually tested one of their cars at Pikes Peak way back then. And, wow. I got to meet Barney and hang out with him. And I didn't call Barney myself, but I talked to Joe a little bit, and I made it clear to NASCAR that if Barney ever wanted that number back, it was his. I just wanted to have the 78 if he wasn't here, because that was a number I've had since I was 2.5 years old. So to answer your question, I guess in that hour that my wife told me to look back and enjoy what we'd done and where we were headed, absolutely, I was excited to see the 78 on my Cup car for 2021.
That is awesome. One more question for you, BJ, before we get to our NASCAR news and notes. Working with Matt Tifft on this race team here, Matt, was in the Cup Series with JTG Daughtry for a period of time, and also ran Xfinity Series races, ran at a high level. How did this come together with Matt? And I know that Matt probably wishes he was out there right now, but tell us about working with him and what it's been like for him as just an owner, a partner with you in this endeavor.
Well, it's I guess how it come about. He was with several large teams and front row in the Cup Series right before his seizure happened at Martinsville, and So Matt was my first super late model driver development driver in 2011, and I've been friends with him and his family the whole time. He actually drove for me in a super late in 2015 at Speed Weeks. It's like, so I mean, he had drove for me as long, like super lates was 6 years ago now, and he ran his first truck race with me at Martinsville, and we took a truck with an old body, and Pro Motor gave us an engine for that race. And I remember Matt passed the Turner truck with about 5 laps to go for 8th place. Wow. He finished 8th in his Truck Series debut with my truck at Martinsville, and Kyle Busch called him the next day. So, that whole time we stayed friends, and Matt got to go run with some teams that I've never been fortunate enough to work with and learn things that, I haven't had the resources to learn and the backing to learn. And, Matt and I are going to be in business together, whether it's racing or real estate, it doesn't matter. So, that we've always had this business, sense together. And that's been the last 3 years, something like that. And we started kicking around this charter idea, like as a casual conversation at the start of a movie. Cause we go to the movies the night before the race. He would have, we'd be there on Friday. He'd be there for Cup practice. I'd be there either for Cup practice or, the Xfinity race the next day. And we'd always go to dinner, go to a movie somewhere, go to Dave & Buster's or whatever, and hang out. And in one of these trips, we were like, you know what, we should buy a charter. and it was just a conversation. Right. And my wife had been telling me for a while we needed to buy a charter. Like she was on this earlier than us for sure. But, I just didn't. She's, like I said earlier, she's the one always pushing me. And I was like, we just got the 3 Xfinity teams to where they're stable. We have a good business model over here. We're doing okay. Like, I just want to chill for a second. So she's just putting those, those little hints in my ear. And then, Matt and I talked about it as much as it was roughly 1.5 years, 2 years ago from November. So, middle of 2019, we've had the first conversation, and then we both said we would do it, right? But there wasn't a plan, and charters just aren't up for sale. You don't just go grab one when you want it. So, when the coronavirus deal shut us down and we left from Atlanta and didn't race, and I was in the van on the way back, I remember it as clear as yesterday. I was sitting in the front seat, just, honestly half asleep, and I was thinking about, I'm going to use this time to get a charter. Like, I'm going to get prepared to buy a Cup charter during this time, whatever, if it's a week or 3 months or 4 months or 6. We didn't know. None of us knew. It was a very scary time. And I was like, this is what I'm going to work on. So started putting, feelers out there and letting people know that we were interested. And luckily enough, we got everything prepped. And then less than 45 days later, we had a chance to buy half a charter. So that's exactly how it went down and how we prepared for it.
Amazing.
That's awesome.
So
that
COVID had something to do. Driving in the van, half asleep, from Atlanta Motor Speedway back to Charlotte. That's how it happened.
That's when the actual motion got put in to get it together. And when we made arrangements and put a business plan together, Matt and I did, and Jessica, and we had this, and I told Matt, I said, honestly, you know this, but this could be 5 years from now. Okay. Like this was April of 2020. And I was, I told him, I said, we've got a plan. We know what we're going to try to do. Depending on the year, there might be some change in the numbers a little bit, but this is at least a 5-year possibility of before we even get one. So we both left that meeting saying we're ready, and when it happens, it happens. So I just started doing what I do and letting people know I was after one, and trying to make something happen. And like I said, within 45 days, we had an offer, and in that conversation, I said yes to everything. I didn't say, let me get back to you. I didn't say, let me think about it. I said yes. They said price. We said yes. Like it was just that quick. And after I said yes to everything, I called Matt, and I was like, honestly, I was in the lounge. I remember I was in the lounge, one of my trailers at a racetrack, and I told Matt, I was like, I think we just bought a charter. And he's like, okay, cool. Just let me know. Like, he was all in, like never once questioned anything. He's like, dude, I think you got me. Like, we'll do this right. So, then the real negotiation begins when you get home, right? Like everything starts getting put on paper, and Matt and I were able to get that done with, Joe Falk and Go Fast, and it all worked out. And we're, now we're sitting 5 races into 2021.
Man, that process went quick, but man, you were saying just a minute ago, somebody said, let's chill. BJ McLeod and Jessica McLeod, chilled out doesn't go with this group, man. That's the one thing you guys don't do, man. You guys make things happen quick, BJ. Unbelievable, man. So when y'all were talking about it first, you thought maybe it might take 4 or 5 years. You didn't think it would.
Well, you have to be realistic with the plan, right? Because you set numbers off of current programs and current cars and everything the way it is, and you look to the next year, and you have to do all that. But then, like I said, you can't just walk up and buy one. There's 36 people in the garage that don't want to sell. Well, they're not going to sell. It's like, or maybe 14 people own all the charters. It's like, you may never have one for sale. It could be 7 years before one sells. Sure. So I just figured, in my mind, within 5 years, somebody would go to get out, and we'd have at least a shot to go after it. And you never know then if you're going to be the highest bidder, or, be the person they want to sell to. So, we were just extremely fortunate to time things the way we did, and be ready to jump when we had the chance and make it all happen. Because I can tell you, looking back, it's really crazy how we got our deal done. And then, within a month period, you have Michael Jordan and just, it's just crazy that, Denny and him, and they announced their deal. And, then Justin Marks comes in, and Pitbull joins him. And it's like, you just have all this stuff going down, and then you got me and Matt. We're definitely not Pitbull and not Michael Jordan, not Denny Hamlin.
That's great.
Very thankful for the opportunity, though.
Absolutely,
that is fantastic. That's great, BJ. We got a few more things before we get out of here today. We want to get to our NASCAR News and Notes segment. And Dominic, let's start out by looking back at the Cup race at Phoenix, as it was Martin Truex getting back into victory lane, the 4th different winner of the first 4 races of 2021.
Actually 5 for 5, and I don't believe any of our guests no, you're good, but I don't think any of us had picked Truex to win Phoenix. In fact, Martin Truex had never won a Cup Series race at Phoenix Raceway. Of the active drivers who were competing in the field Sunday in the Instacart 500, he had the most starts of anybody in the field to yet score a victory. Martin Truex snapped a 29-race winless streak to go for the first victory of 2021. Again, 5 different winners in 5 races: Michael McDowell, William Byron, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, and now Martin Truex. It was his 28th career win in the NASCAR Cup Series. That ties him with 1960 Series champion Rex White and David, your buddy Carl Edwards, on the NASCAR Cup Series win list.
Absolutely, man. But, I just, there's so many, you're not surprised by Truex winning the race, because there's so many guys that haven't won yet in 2021. I mean, Kevin Harvick, you know, on and on and on. So I really believe going to Atlanta, we're going to have I believe we're going to have another winner that's going to be our sixth different winner of the season. Could be BJ McLeod. Who knows? You know what I mean? But you know, not surprising to see Mark Truex in victory lane, and it's amazing that we've had 5 different winners in 5 different races, and I think. I truly believe that we're going to see another, not a first-time winner in the Cup Series, but a first-time winner in 2021 at Atlanta Motor Speedway.
And BJ, do you think there's a possibility we're going to see potentially 16 different Cup Series winners by the time the regular season ends?
It's definitely on track to do that. We and I'm gonna go ahead and pick Kevin Harvick for Sunday because Atlanta's his home. That's his house there. So I look to see maybe they'll get their first one of the year. But you know, it's really awesome that we have that kind of competition in the Cup Series where we're having different winners every week, and you've got first time winners and just some crazy stuff going on this year. It's really the best year ever for the fans, and that gets me excited and makes me really proud to be a part of the sport, and just looking forward to seeing what actually does happen here. And let's not forget we got a dirt race in about 13 days, so that's going to be exciting.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it.
That's a perfect segue to our next little news and notes here. Stewart Friesen was announced March 16th that he's going to be competing at the Bristol Dirt Race with Spire Motorsports in the 77 car. So that'll be his debut in the Cup Series. And gosh, that race is just going to be so awesome. They've been promoting that now for a long time with Fox. And I go, gosh, the first time since 1970 that we're going to see Cup cars on a points awarding race, and it's going to be at Bristol Motor Speedway.
BJ, let's start with you this time. What's your reaction to Stewart getting the shot at Cup and at that Bristol Dirt Race?
Nothing but excited for him. That's the one thing I was hoping would happen with this dirt race is to get some guys in there that can go up there and compete with, you know, Busch and Larson, and I think Briscoe's going to be one of the ones up front, and just all your Cup guys that are, you know, badass race car drivers that are going to be fast on dirt because they're fast in anything, right? Even though it's not what they do every week, they're going to be good. So, you know, I'm looking forward to Stewart being up there, and I think, you know, he's got the experience. He's been in these big vehicles for a while. You know, he's got the attitude to be able to get up there and race with those guys and not be you know, too cautious because it is a superstar right next to him. So, you know, he's got it. Just got me excited when I seen that announcement today, and we've got a cool guy in our car that's going to be fun to watch up there. You know, Shane's, you know, he's got a reputation for being smart, but he's successful, and I'm just hoping that we get him enough practice time and get him enough seat time in that heat race and the start of the big race so he can get used to that big car and get rolling. Because you know, that's, as an owner, you know, we're bringing somebody that's excellent on dirt to a dirt race, and I think dirt's going to be kind of a equalizer for the equipment. You know, I don't think that you're not going to see your side skirt being off a quarter inch cost you 0.3 of a second. You know, it's like you're going to be missing a bumper and nobody's going to care. Like it's going to be an awesome race for leveling the equipment out, and hopefully some of these drivers can take some of these cars that are, you know, maybe an underfunded budget, but put it up there, you know, in that top 15, maybe even top 10. And you know, you honestly never know, because this race is going to be wild. Like I'm not going to put it completely out that not one of these cars that runs 30th every week doesn't end up winning. So, you know, it's something that is going to be awesome for all of us to get a chance to watch that. And I'm going to be there and try to learn as much as I can so I can do it next year. For me, it was a big thing I wanted a dirt guy in our car to go there and try to, we're trying to win. I'm not going to lie. Like in my head, I want to go there and I want to outlast people and us have a shot to win. But you know what, maybe we're 20th, maybe we're 25th, but you know, that was the idea of giving it a shot. And I knew I wasn't ready for that. I don't have enough dirt knowledge to even have a shot at that. So, you know, we're looking forward to our guy and that weekend and seeing what happens.
David, what's your reaction to Stewart getting a shot at racing for Spire at the Bristol Dirt Race?
Well, man, it's not. It's I think it's smart on Spire's Motors, on their team's part to bring in like BJ was saying. I mean, you talking about a guy that has a lot of experience on dirt. I mean, he's up in those East Coast modifieds, big block modifieds, small block modifieds. I mean, this guy's a champion on the dirt, and I just think it makes really good sense. I've just listened to BJ talk. I was excited for BJ to run the Bristol Dirt race on the Cup side because, like BJ was saying, if your side skirts, a half-inch high or 3/4 of inch high, it don't really matter because I believe the dirt race at Bristol is going to be like racing at Talladega and Daytona. It gives the guys that are 30th, 28th, 35th place cars an opportunity to win a race. And, BJ's talking about he has what's your driver's name, BJ?
Shane Golobic. He's been driving sprint cars. He's one of the NOS drivers in sprint cars.
Okay, see, that's news to me, but I was excited to, I'm learning this now, but I was excited for BJ to be in the race because, again, because you can take a 30th place car, a 28th, 7th place car, and you might see a very underfunded Cup car at Victory Lane at Bristol. And, a lot of, I think there's so much excitement. And, man, I can't wait to watch it on TV. And it'd be pretty awesome to see that 78 go, live fast racing in Victory Lane, for the first time for its only 6th or 7th race of its since it was born. You know what I mean? So, but I'm excited, and I think that's smart, BJ, as a team owner and as a businessman. I'm sad you're not going to be in the race, but definitely understandable on the business side of it. And bring in a dirt ace to put in your car, and anything's possible.
Yeah, definitely. So these races, you can't be missing one thing if you want a shot. And no matter, let's say, honestly, I think dirt would fit my driving style very well. I think I would be pretty quick at it fairly fast. Right. But it's just, I've never raced a super late on dirt. I've never raced a go-kart on dirt. I've never done nothing other than four-wheelers. So it didn't make sense to come in at this level and try to learn all that in a 2 or 3 week period. I just didn't want to do it. But believe I am going to work hard over the next year, and hopefully I'll get the shot next year to see what I can do. But it's, just excited because the knowledge of dirt itself, there's so much changing. There's so much you have to know about the dampness of the track, or, just different things that we all know from asphalt. We know things that move around. We know the tracks. We know they get tighter, freer, dew point, different things. But, I don't have that knowledge of dirt. And this is something that these guys already have. They don't need to learn that. All this kid needs is a shot to get used to a heavy race car. And he's got the racing sense. He's got everything else. He's got the dirt background. So we're excited to see what happens.
Very cool. Guys, one more thing before we get out of here today. Time for our Ask David segment. We ask you to submit questions to us on Facebook and Twitter at Star Podcast. By email, davidstarpodcast@gmail.com is where you can find us there. And let's start out with an email. This comes from Cindy. Cindy writes, David, have you filled out a March Madness bracket yet? And who do you think is going to win the national championship?
Well, I really hadn't paid much attention to it, but I know that there's our Texas, our University of Texas basketball team will be there competing. You know what I mean? So I know they won the championship here last week or this past weekend.
Big 12.
And they're headed to March back. The Big 12, they won the Big 12 championship. So that was kind of cool. So it's be kind of cool, for a team from the state where you live that can compete at that level. And hopefully it'll be exciting, no doubt about it. But I sure like to see the Longhorns up there in the Final Four if possible,
Yeah, they got a really good team, and Baylor is a 1 seed as well. So the state of Texas is well represented. BJ, you paying much attention to March Madness? You fill out a bracket, man?
No, sir. I haven't ever watched a college basketball game start to finish in my life. I'm actually kind of a different human being. Like, I'm 100% in racing, and I love NFL. Like, I like players. I'm not really a a team supporter. I'm all about the players, the athletes. I got a ton of respect for what they do. And, and the same with basketball. It just, in my head, I've always been focused on racing, and there's been a little bit of time for football, but not much else. So I actually don't know anything about it, but I wish them all the best. And, I definitely couldn't run back and forth on that basketball court for an hour and a half. That's not me. I don't know if you've seen me in the garage or not, but I'm built to throw stuff. I'm not built to run. So all the respect to them,
Absolutely.
What about you, Dominic? You gonna be watching it all?
Well, I mean, my UNM Lobos, my alma mater, I don't even think they made the tournament this year, so I can't.
No, they fired their coach and just hired.
They did announce a new coach earlier this week, so I guess I'll just be casually watching, and I guess I'll be saying "Go team."
Go team. Go sports. Yeah.
Go sports. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh. One more question for you, David. This one comes on Twitter. This one comes from Ray. Ray writes, David, what do you like to eat at the racetrack?
Well, we heard BJ McLeod earlier talk about, him and Matt Tifft. They like to go to movies the night before they race or go to dinner. One of the things over the years has kind of been my thing. You know what I mean? I love, obviously got to have a Whataburger. Here lately, last 4 or 5 years, I go have me a number one, just a single hamburger with French fries and a Dr. Pepper, But before there was Whataburger on our race car, I visit the Olive Garden a lot. Man, I used to love going the night before with my crew chief and eating at the Olive Garden. So if it's not a Whataburger in town, you'll definitely find me at the local Olive Garden, no doubt about it.
Oh man, I went with David to an Olive Garden one time, and he ordered a Dr. Pepper ice cream float. I'll never let him live it down. It wasn't even on the menu. He just asked for it to see if they could make it for him. BJ, what do you eat at the racetrack, man?
Well, I guess the day of, it's always Subway for me. The night before, there is no telling. I eat everywhere, anywhere. It just depends. So you figure out when you travel 40 weeks a year, you figure out restaurants in every town that you go to. So, that's kind of the deal where I end up hitting those places when we're in different towns and different areas, but not one in particular. But the race day food's always Subway for me.
Subway, eat fresh.
Absolutely.
That's right. And Tyler, I mean, real quick, you and I were always in the media center food. They always have a good spread of food. And you can always find us grabbing some coffee and grabbing some awesome meats before the race starts.
Yeah. If I'm close to a Whataburger, though, that's hard to say no to. So
I mean, not to rub it in your face or anything, but that was the pre-race media meal for me on Saturday. On Haverland and ESPN Albuquerque, we got a nice big juicy Whataburger right before the start of the race.
Oh, I'm jealous, man. That sounds so good right now. Before we go, we heard from BJ earlier that he said he'd like Kevin Harvick to win on Sunday. The rest of us, let's go around the room. Dominic, give me one name. Who's going to win the Cup race Sunday?
Man, am I allowed to piggyback off and take BJ's pick there as well?
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay, all right, yeah. Then I'm going to say Kevin Harvick wins as well. I like his work. Yeah.
I'll take Brad Keselowski. I think Keselowski gets into victory lane. I think he's due for something, and he could have a very good season this year. David, who do you like in the Cup race Sunday?
Man, I'm going to have to triple piggyback on that one. You know what I mean? Just like BJ was talking earlier. I mean, Kevin Harvick, that's his house. You know what I mean? And I've always watched him and studied his line, and man, how he runs that track and what he's done over the years. I don't know how many wins he has, but there's a lot. It's hard to bet against Kevin Harvick, you know what I mean? Because he's got that place figured out. So I'm going to have to go with Dominic and BJ on that. And I believe we're going to see Harvick back in victory lane in 2021 in Atlanta.
There you go. BJ, we appreciate you joining us, man. You're welcome back anytime. Some terrific stories. Where can people follow you and find out what's going on with you and your team, man?
Well, just check out all our social media sites. And I really appreciate you guys having me on tonight. It was a good surprise, and appreciate all the kind words from you guys, and just looking forward to getting to Atlanta.
David, what's going on with you the next couple of days before you head to Atlanta, man?
Oh, man, I just, doing a lot of work at my house. Got to run over to the race shop at our racing school race shop, check in with my Uncle Mike. And I got a meeting on Thursday afternoon. So just busy with stuff, but looking forward to getting to Atlanta. And hey, BJ, we want to thank you, man. It's pretty cool to hear your insight. I mean, we know you're a hell of a race car driver, and you and your wife are just great NASCAR team owners. And man, it's been awesome to hear the stories, dude. It's pretty cool, and it's an honor to have you on our podcast. Thank you for coming on, joining us.
It means a lot, guys. I really appreciate that.
Awesome stuff. Dominic, what's going on in the racing experts this week?
We'll continue to cover the sport and just all the headlines that are coming in and out and the daily news of NASCAR and the world of motorsports, as well as our giveaways. And by the way, as you all have been seeing, it's a new week, a new podcast, a new David Starr autographed giveaway. So be sure to be checking that out on social media. Be liking and retweeting. You could win one of 4 autographed David Starr photos. All you got to do is just enter.
I need an autographed David Starr photo. I might just have to enter myself. That does it for this week's edition of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. Big thanks to BJ McLeod for joining us on this week's show. As a reminder, as always, to subscribe to Let's Go Racing with David Starr on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. We certainly would appreciate that. Leave us a 5-star review or don't leave us one at all. And you can also find us on social media, facebook.com/David Starr Podcast and Star Podcast on Twitter. Email davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. Also, make sure to like our videos on YouTube. We certainly would appreciate that. That'll help boost the algorithm and get us more views and such. So not only just watch our stuff, but hit that like button if you would too. They'll certainly go a long way. We got to go. For David Starr, Dominic Oregon, and our guest, BJ McLeod, I am Tyler Jones. Thanks so long. This has been another edition of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. We'll put the checkered flag out on this one. We'll see you next week.